Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to add some functions to our Elasticsearch file right here. Okay, we already have the connection, but we'll need to create some more methods like the method to check if an index exists, then the create index method, okay, and then some other methods as well. But before we do that, if we go to the documentation page for the Elasticsearch JavaScript client, if you remember this page, we already installed, we already connected, okay? And then if you scroll down, you can see different operations that you can perform. We've already seen how we can create an index, okay? We've created an index. I think we have not been able to add an index from our code. So we're going to see how to index documents. So this is how the method you use to index documents, okay? That is to add a document to the index. This is the command we are going to use. And then to get, to search, to update, to delete right here. And also you can delete an index, okay? So we are going to implement these operations in our code. And then you can check on the left hand side the examples. You can see different examples and how they can be used, okay? So for example, let's say you want to make a bulk insert, okay? So you want to insert multiple documents at the same time, okay? You can use the bulk command, okay? Yeah, right here you can see we have an array of objects with multiple documents, and then you can call the bulk command, okay? So we can use the bulk. We have used this already to check if a document exists, okay? It returns a boolean. We can use to get, okay? So if we want to get a document from an index, for example, suggest, okay? So after inserting with using the bulk command, if you want to get a document based on a text, similar documents based on some text, like winter, okay, you use the suggest command. Here, if we want to update, okay, so we call the update, and it's possible to use SQL queries as well, okay. These are things you can try on your own once you have our, I think we still have some test data, and also later we're going to create our own data from, or see the data from code. You can use SQL query, okay. So it's possible you can use SQL query right here as well, okay. So now let's go back to our code here in this Elasticsearch. If we go to our auth service, let's go to Elasticsearch. I think was it here? Oh, no, not the auth service. I think it was not the user service. I think it was the auth service. Okay, so go to the auth service. Okay, so here in the auth service, you can see we created this method to check if index exists, and then we created this method to create the index. So what I can do, I'll copy this, okay? Because the reason why we want to add this to the gig service is so that probably if the gig service starts before the auth service, then the gig service should create the index, okay? So that is why we are adding it right here. I will export this, okay? And then make some changes. This is going to be gig service right here, okay? So what I've done here is added this method to check if an index already exists, okay? Just to check, you pass the index name. If here in the create index, if it returns true, that means the index already exists, and then we just log this information. Otherwise, if it does not exist, if this value returns false, or if it is false, then we create the index and then we refresh the index. The reason for this refresh is so that after the index has been created, every document that is added can be searched, okay? Can be obtained using the search query, okay? And then we log this information. If there's an error with any of these operations, we log them right here, okay? So I believe you should still remember what these methods are for, okay? So now we have that. Let's create another method, or first let me use it, okay? So I'll go to my server file, and then let's use it, and it's going to be here in the start Elasticsearch, and the name of the index is gigs because we are using the same index name, okay? So the name of the index is gigs, so we create the index. It's going to check if it already exists. If it does, it does not create it. If it does not exist, it creates it. Now let's create a method. I think we've already done that, but I'll add it here. The method to get a document. So I'll say const, and this will be get indexed, whatever name you want to call it. So I'll call it get index data, and it will take in the index of type string and the item ID of type string. Okay, now this is going to return a promise of type iSellerGig. Remember, the documents we are going to add will be of type gigs, okay, or iSellerGig, whichever name we used. So promise, this is going to be iSellerGig, okay, and then right here, and I'm going to use a try catch, okay. So try catch. In the catch block, I'll log error, okay, and then I'll say gig service Elasticsearch get index data method error, and then I'll add the error object. And now this needs to return something, okay. So here I'll just return an empty curly braces, and I'll cast it as iSellerGig, okay. So returning, if it returns from this function itself, if it returns this curly braces, then it failed, okay. And then here const result await, and then we use our Elasticsearch client, okay. So we use this Elasticsearch client dot get, and then here we pass in an object with the index and then the ID. The ID is going to be of type item ID, okay. And then here we return results. Now the data we need, remember, is always in the source, okay, as iSellerGig, okay. And then we can export this. This function returns get response, so you can set the type here to be get response, okay. So this will be the method that will be used to get a document from the index. And now to add, okay, let me just duplicate this and I'll change this. I'll call this add data to index. Now this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to take the index of type string, the item ID, and then the document we want to add. So I'll call this document, and it's going to be, I'll set the type to be unknown, okay, and then we set this to be void. It's not going to return anything. Now this could be unknown, or the document, I think the document will be of type iSellerGig. Yeah, probably we might update this later, but for now we can use this. And here it's not going to return anything, so I'll remove this. I'll remove this as well, and then this is going to be add data to index method error. Now to add, it's very simple. Await, then Elasticsearch client dot index, and then we pass an object. Inside the object we pass the index, okay. Remember, we are using a shorthand, okay, so we are using a shorthand here, so I will remove this part. And then ID we set to item ID, and then the document we want to add, documents, okay. Now if we go back to the browser, let's see, I think here under getting started, let's see what the index document, okay. So indexing documents, we've added our index, we've added the ID of the document, okay. And now the documents that we want to add, we set the key name is document, and then the value will be whatever object you want to add, okay. So this is the object we want to add, but the key name is always document, okay. So that is why here I can change this to I can change this to something else, gig document. Okay, so it doesn't confuse you. Okay, so gig document and the value is going to be gig document. We can export this here as well. Okay, now once we get to the part of adding this, I'm going to explain, I think, of something I've talked about it before, but we are going to talk about it again. So we've added these two methods, the get index data and the add data to index. In the next video, we add the updates and the deletes.